You know what the one thing I like is miniseries. Miniseries is a good way to tell a story that is too big for a cinematic silver screen, but also you don't want it to be as long as a syndicated TV show. You want just compact, just the right amount of episodes or right amount of parts to be able to tell the full story of what you want to say. And we find this to be very often in music biopics. I mean, come on, we got the iconic Temptations miniseries.
Ain't nobody coming to see you, Otis.
In 2017, New Edition put out their miniseries, and it was a 3-parter, which I think was one of the best miniseries that New Edition ever done, and even caused a spinoff of a miniseries of Bobby Brown to tell his own story, with Woody McClain and Tyler Marcel Williams reprising their roles as young and older Bobby Brown. Which, by the way, Woody McClain is defending Bobby Brown. I don't care what y'all say. We even had a miniseries for the O.J. Simpson trial with Cuba Gooding Jr. playing O.J. Simpson. But to be honest with you, that was actually pretty good. But with all the miniseries being said, one of the most iconic, legendary miniseries that we have, of course, is the Jackson's American Dream. Of course, y'all know we on this channel, we Mike fans over here, okay? Me and Primetime, we discuss Mike all the time. And I was like, listen, I was looking on the internet and I was scouring. I'm like, wait a minute. How are there no reviews really about the Jackson's American Dream? This miniseries is big. This was one of the big events that came out in 1992 on ABC. I still remember when my grandfather bought our big screen TV, you know, the one with the big button in the back, and they showed the premiere trailer for it and how excited I was for it.
In 5 days, the television event of the year, a world premiere movie.
Now, I was scouring the interwebs trying to find some reviews of it because I've seen little reactions of it and little clips of it, but I was like, there's no reviews of it. But there is a 3-part review consists over 3 YouTube channels featuring Miranda Snyder, J5 Lover, and of course, MJFANGIRL. Y'all need to go check that out. And of course, I found another review by the Black Media Man Cave. These are the 2 reviews I really found on the Jackson's American Dream that's worth anything. So you guys gotta go check them out. I figured what better way to celebrate Michael Jackson's birthday than to do a review of the Jackson's American Dream. I'm even surprised that we haven't done it yet. So without any further ado, we about to get up into this miniseries. Now, the Jackson's American Dream was a 2-part miniseries that debuted on ABC back in 1992. And it is loosely based off the autobiography of Katherine Jackson. And also later on, they released on DVD, a 2-disc DVD. And of course, you know I got it because I love physical media. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to review this in 2 parts. We're going to do the early years in this review. And then you're going to stay tuned for tomorrow when we do the success years. That's how they label each section of the miniseries. And we're going to talk about the things that I'm going to go through the whole movie, talk about things I like, and things also that I feel as though needed to change and should have been better at. How do you guys not know the Jackson family? The Jackson family is a very wildly successful, popularized, probably the most known musical family out there. Yeah, of course you got the Osmonds, of course you got the Ozzy brothers, of course you got the Taverns, the 5-Star Steps. You got a lot of musical families, but none have made that impact like the Jackson family had. So at this time, especially in the early 90s, they decided that it was going to be time to actually tell the Jackson story from up until this time. Because at this time, we're in the early 90s. We're in the thick of Michael Jackson in the Dangerous era, Janet Jackson's Miss Rhythm Nation, and beyond. Like, you know, the Jacksons are at extreme heights at this time. So Jermaine Jackson and Suzanne DePass helped produce this film as well. So they are the ones that's really behind it. So keep that in mind for as you go along the movie. The Jackson family was involved, heavily involved. And this is also when it comes to just some of the names that we have in this miniseries of things, because we have some heavy hitters that's in here. We have Lawrence Hilton-Jacobs that was playing Joe Jackson, and I think this is probably one of his best roles as portraying Joe Jackson. Even Lawrence Hilton-Jacobs has said that he knew Joe Jackson, the Jackson family, before that, and even still that Joe was kind of even avoiding him because of how good he was portraying his role.
I knew the Jackson family many years before I ever knew I was going to play Joe. Okay. You know, we had been friends, so that's just a wild coincidence. And when the time came around, Joe would not get together with me. He seemed like he was nervous and so forth. So I just read the script.
Angela Bassett plays Katherine Jackson. Michael Jackson has said before out of his mouth that whoever is playing his mother has to be beautiful. And how in the hell are we not going to say Angela Bassett Ada Fox? Even still to this day. But there were talks with Angela Bassett's agent that was sitting and was telling her that she shouldn't even be part of this movie because at this time there was some controversy going on with Michael Jackson and the case, especially in the early 90s. But Angela Bassett was just like, I'm not playing Michael Jackson, I'm playing his mother. And those boys love their mother. I'm like, good answer, because you know what? I'm not going to say this role made Angela Bassett, because Angela Bassett was doing things even before this. So she even had the cameo, like she had a small part of the Cosby Show. So she was doing work, but this really right here, this is one of the iconic roles next to Tina Turner Angela Bassett has done that we praise her for, and I'm so glad that she went through with it and stuck to her guns. Jason Weaver is playing Michael. I call him Michael 2 because there are 3 portrayals of Michael Jackson in this movie, and I'm gonna get deeper into that. But just to name out Jason Weaver, one of the most popular ones, and I think probably the best one to play Michael in this one. And look, we know Jay Weave, man. You know he's a great singer. Played on Marcus on Smart Guy. He's even in The Shy right now. Jason Weaver's all over the place, man. But he was young Michael Jackson. He was like one of the staples of that movie. And we even have Jermaine Jackson Jr., who plays his dad in this movie, who's the only cast member who has been through there with all the age changes, which I didn't even recognize until I seen the Black Media Man Cave point out to me. Thank you, bro. Michael even had like a lot of input on who was going to portray him, and he had to approve all this. At some points, people were saying held up production, and there have been rumors around that maybe, Joe Jackson had to smooth that along.
Mama, with you good?
No, you're not.
That's wrong. We know LaToya had nothing to do with this. At that time, she had that scathing book out that was really running down her family because of who she was married to, and all that drama with that. So LaToya had nothing to do with this project. But the movie kicks off with the backstory between Joe and Katherine. Now, for those who know us, y'all know Primetime hates this part of the movie. And he feels as though it's not needed. But to be honest with you, I actually think it is needed because this is the Katherine Jackson story. This is how they started. You have to understand how the parents are, where they come from, in order to understand the kids and how they react to things as where they come from. And it's just a basically coming of age story, especially at that time. And the chemistry between Lawrence Hilton-Jacobs and Angela Bassett is great here because Angela Bassett is just acting. We know that Katherine Jackson does have a legit limp because of a case of polio when she was younger, and Angela Bassett, she is working that limp, okay? From the beginning of the movie to the end of that movie, she working that hip. And then Lawrence Hilton-Jacobs is in playing Joe Jackson. And let me tell you something, Joe Jackson took some liberties with himself, okay? Now I'm not sitting here saying, look, I'm not sitting here saying I'm going to judge man that type of way, but I'm just saying, I'm just going to say Lawrence Hilton-Jacobs playing Joe Jackson in this movie is a step from what Joe Jackson really looks like.
I don't look anything like Joe, but I became that idea of what he looked like.
Because Joe Jackson be coming across looking like the candlestick from Beauty and the Beast. Joe meets Katie and they end up having a relationship, but then Joe runs off and gets married and breaks Katie's heart. But then Joe Jackson does come back, and that marriage is over now, and now he's going on to Katie. I'm just like, first of all, that's red flag number 1, to be honest with you. Joe Jackson was a boxer and also a musician, but his pullout game is trash. I mean, come on, when we already got the news that we have one baby, how do we fix this problem? How do we make it to be able to take care of this baby? Have 5 more kids? Come on, you might as well make Catherine's name Krispy Kreme, because as soon as that hotline came on, Joseph didn't know what to do.
And boy, Krispy Kreme donut will make you wreck your damn car. Am I lying? You could be riding that damn hot light, come on.
I mean, hell, it could turn out differently. I mean, if Katherine really didn't want to mess with Joe's life and she went and got rid of the kid, I mean, it would probably look like something like this.
I'm not pregnant.
What?
So now their first child was Rebe Jackson. So now we're introduced to the next 5 kids, which is Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, LaToya, and Marlon. For those who don't know, Marlon Jackson had a twin brother named Brandon Jackson, but he died at childbirth. Now, could y'all imagine if Brandon Jackson made it? Could Brandon Jackson have actually been the one in Michael Jackson's place? Yeah, probably not. We get a full introduction to Michael while the other 5 kids are brought in like stage props of when Katherine gets pregnant again. She's embarrassed. Even to the point where she was, making some logical sense here.
You should be using birth control.
I don't believe in no birth controls. You know that.
You should. And now Michael is born, and now we're really going into the kids. Now we're starting to see the kids now because most of the kids at this time are here, except for little Janet, who really gets no love in this movie in the first place, but we ain't there yet. And now we see the kids in the element, and we see that these kids do have talent.
Go on, Jack, show 'em.
Some more than others. And then when the kids finally get here, we start seeing Joe Jackson's rough side. Now, I know what they say about Joe Jackson being an abuser, and I've read a lot of the books, I've seen a lot of the interviews, and a lot of things that Joe Jackson has done. I'm just like, yeah, man, that was a little much because the movie really put some rose-colored glasses on compared to what really happened in a lot of interviews and according to them in their stories. Because in this movie, I have to say, growing up in a black household, I'm just like, there's discipline and there's abuse. And like that one scene, like, okay, but it's dinner time and there's a shoe in the middle of the floor. The dad in me is just like, whose shoe is that? Move your shoe out the middle of the floor. Michael kept testing that man. Michael got his shoe, and I mean, they just put the whole loafer on here in the middle of the kitchen floor. And like, somebody could trip, some shit can happen. Then Michael gonna be like, he gonna throw it at him? I don't know. I'm chasing him too. Probably, you know what I'm saying? Like, come on now. Because not only, not because you had to throw it at the table, because we barely got enough to eat anyway, but I'm just like, nigga, move your shoe. But that's not to sugarcoat what Joe Jackson was doing with these kids. Tito Jackson is the one that starts playing his dad's guitar. And he's not supposed to be touching his guitar while he's over at work. But then one day that string breaks. And when Joe finds out about when the string breaks, he wakes everybody up and Jermaine dives him out. First off, side note, I gotta say something about Jermaine. Because here's the thing, Jermaine is on bitch time this whole movie. I mean, if anybody is about to get in trouble, he will dine them out in a second. Jermaine ain't got your back at all.
It's not mine. I swear to God and Jesus, all of them. I didn't do it. God, swear to God. Believe me.
And that's when Joe Jackson takes Tito and we get our first major ass whooping in the movie. Damn, ain't no way that kid is acting. Now after getting your ass whooped, he tells Tito to go play guitar and Joe sees something in his kids. He sees that they have talent and you can already see the money side already forming in his head. But now when we see the more older kids, we start seeing some recognizable faces. Like who plays Reby Jackson is Monica Calhoun. You may know her from the Players Club.
This ain't that type of party. I just came to dance for y'all. That's all.
Bumper Roberson plays Jackie Jackson. Now this is Bumper Roberson. Now he's really known, especially for playing in a lot of TV roles. But this is before he was pushing papers for Khadijah.
Chicken? Like nobody proposes to Khadijah but me around here.
Jermaine Jackson Jr. once again is playing Jermaine, and then we have Alex Burrell, who plays the youngest version of Michael Jackson, who is very good. That Michael Jackson personally handpicked to play him as well. At first, they illustrated as it's the four of them, with Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, and Marlon being the group, but Michael being a little bit too young. But then, when there was a kindergarten talent show and Michael sung Climb Every Mountain, now even though this is not Alex Burrell's voice, it's still a beautiful scene.
Climb every mountain, ford every stream.
False. Now, with that narrative, I have to say this. In the beginning, it was supposed to be the three brothers. It was supposed to be Jackie, Tito, and Jermaine. Jermaine being the lead singer. Marlon and Michael were doing bongo stuff in the background. Marlon was never part of that early group neither, okay? It's just supposed to be those three Jackson boys. But like Tito Jackson said on VladTV, they heard Michael singing at Climb Every Mountain, and then they decided that, hey, they ran back and said, yo, my brother need to be in the group.
One day, like a year or two later, we hear Michael singing a little thing in kindergarten, singing Climb Every Mountain in the school performance. And he tore it up, man. We couldn't believe, our mouths flew open, couldn't believe that was our brother up there singing. We rush him home, tell him he's in the group. Mom said, me too? Say, yeah, you too, come on. So that's how the Jackson brothers were formed.
And one thing I do like that, even though for a lot of us that everybody's Michael Jackson fans and Michael Jackson's like at the forefront, even not in this movie, but just in life, they still give all the Jackson kids some type of storyline. Whether no matter how big or small, but they do get a storyline. We have Tito, who breaks the guitar, almost how to get this whole thing started, who wants to be a musician. This I'm talking about early on here. Jackie wants to go out there and, you know, still play baseball with his friends and go hang out with girls. He can't do that. Marlon can't dance, so he getting his ass whooped, so he's sitting there trying to make sure he can pull off his spin moves right there in the middle of the street. Jermaine was just Jermaine until we get older. And hell, Jackie even getting to fight with boys to men. The sisters don't get too much love, especially in the beginning, other than Reba Jackson trying to have a little wants to get married storyline that makes it to get away from the Jackson family. But there's nothing to do with LaToya until we get to part 2, and there's virtually nothing to do with Janet in this movie at all. Which I could probably understand that a little bit, but it's Janet. Family rehearse every day to do talent shows and little gigs like that, and to make sure to get them exposure. And Joe Jackson doesn't do second place. Hey, look. Even when they won that color TV, Joe said, no, leave that color TV. In real life, I think he went to that color TV. We need a fucking color TV, Joseph.
We've had enough trouble. It's over now.
When did we got the color TV?
Now, as we see the Jackson boys get older, they land a kind of like a little small record deal and have a little single called Kansas City. But in real life, they had a little record deal on Steeltown Records, and their single was Big Boy. Now, at this point, the movie, I had to take a double take because Michael and Marlon have grown up and for some reason became dark skinned. I'm sitting looking like, wait, now hold on, that's Michael and Marlon. They would have here comes Jason Weaver and this other young boy. I'm just like, that's not how skin goes. Quick disclaimer: as I was editing this video, I want to make it clear that I am not making fun of the fact that Jason Weaver and Jason Wilkerson are dark skinned at all. I'm just saying that usually a lot of times in these biopics when they're changing, they just go from light-skinned kids to dark-skinned kids, or to dark-skinned kids to light-skinned kids. I'm like, that's not how skin works. You should keep everything uniform. But by far, Jason Weaver and Jason Wilkerson were phenomenal as Michael and Marlon. They're actually my favorite iteration of Michael and Marlon in this movie. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear, that we don't do no colorism here. But it doesn't even matter because Jason Weaver fits so seamlessly in to that Michael Jackson role as he grows up, and he is so lovable and adorable in the movie. You just sit there thinking to yourself like, man. And that's why, in my personal opinion, out of all the three, they all did great, but the standout to me is Jason Weaver as his portrayal as that popular Jackson 5 Michael Jackson. Now, with all the success and all, not success, but all the gig stuff that's going on, they get the eye of certain people to the point where Vanessa Williams, who plays Susan at the Past, wants to get them an audition for Motown. And that's when we get introduction to Barry Gordy, who's played by Billy D. Billy D! Now, hold on. Once again, there's liberties that's being taken here. Because for some reason, when I look through all these miniseries or anything that's portraying Barry Gordy, I'm like, Barry Gordy, whoever's playing Barry Gordy is some good looking brother. And I'm not saying I'm sitting here judging men like that, but I'm just sitting here thinking like, you got Papa Tuesday from Temptations, you got Billy D in the Jacksons, hell, you even got Lorenz Tate playing Barry Gordy in the new Michael movie. Barry Gordy, please, you are at John Street at best. Billy D had Jones in the seat doing this back in the day. Barry Gordy game to me come off like this.
My husband's away. Let's go back to my place.
So you don't want a fish sandwich? Okay, that's cool, I guess.
But I guess if you want to count it being the 70s version of Barry Gordy, when he had that full-face beard and Motown went Hollywood, sure. Barry Gordy sees the audition and really is blown away for what the Jackson 5 can do. Now, in real life, they had to record their audition on a tape, and Barry Gordy had to see the tape. But still, they did a good job mirroring what they did in their actual audition tape to compare to what they did in the movie. And I thought that was really good for Barry Gordy to be like, it don't matter, sign them.
Sign them, they're great, they're fantastic. Pull all the stops. I can't wait to get started. I love it.
And now when we get to their rise in Motown, we kind of speed ahead a little bit, but now they have been signed, and their first performance is on the Hollywood Palace, where it's first that Diana Ross presents the Jackson 5. That was the name actually of their first album that it was, that Diana Ross presents the Jackson 5, to help get them more exposure, because Diana Ross at this time was huge, okay? Michael Jackson has been in love with Diana Ross till death, okay? So yeah, she was huge, and have them be the ones to discover the Jackson 5. Basically, in wrestling terms, put them over. Now, the only thing I don't like about the Hollywood Palace scene is that I'm like, first of all, these are the Jacksons, okay? This is Michael Jackson and the Jacksons. This is how you want to say it's a talented ass family. They got the steps, they got the choreography. I'm just like, why in the hell in this movie they never did the steps that was the original steps that go with that song? Like, look at like the iconic sets from I Want You Back. They're iconic. What the fuck they doing in the movie? That don't match nothing. During this transition, I almost forgot that Jackie and Tito grew up to turn into, I don't know the actor's name, but then of course, the debut of Terrence Deshaun Howard, going by Deshaun back in the day. He about to kill this man. Holly Robinson Peete played Diana Ross, and I have to say, I always thought Holly Robinson Peete played an excellent Diana Ross. I think she had the mannerisms down packed. Now, once again, when it comes to like blow for blow, like does she look like Diana Ross? Diana Ross is beautiful, but she ain't Holly Robinson Peete. You know what I'm saying? However, she killed it with the mannerisms, the acting, also like that. I always thought that she was good as Diana Ross. So I'm looking at you, Cat Graham. I'm seeing what you got for this new Michael movie. By this time, we are in the early 70s, and Joe Jackson moves the family to Havenhurst. Havenhurst was the Jacksons' home, especially when they first signed to Motown. That was one of their first big homes. And that Havenhurst is still to the day. They even still do Thriller Nights at Havenhurst. This is why I say that at the beginning when we were seeing Joseph and Katherine and his dream about to go to California. And now it comes full circle of Joe Jackson actually getting them to California. Right?
You got me to California.
Sure.
Me having all those babies, that's what got us to California.
Facts. Now, as the boys are getting older, and now they're still trying to go through school, high school, but they're eventually going to have to be pulled out. Tito Jackson meets Dee Dee. Now, Dee Dee is Tito Jackson's wife, who he had 3T with. They've been married, and then they got divorced, and then Dee Dee had passed away, which is a very tragic and unfortunate story, if you guys don't know the story already. As he's seeing Dee Dee, then Jermaine starts getting a crush on Barry Gordy's daughter, Hazel Gordy. He meets her, opening the door for her when they first try out at Barry Gordy's house. First of all, Barry Gordy, side note, how heavy are these fucking doors that Hazel came to open these doors? Also, Michael and Barry are beginning to get a father-son kind of relationship, and Joe Jackson's getting a little bit jealous of it because it seems like his family's being pulled away, and all Joe cares about,
this family is going to stay together.
Katherine now within the new house, she feels kind of useless. She says she makes dinner, nobody's there, and all her neighbors are white people, and she just really just can't, like, you know, we ain't got no friends, we ain't got no neighbors, we ain't got no community here. But Joe don't care about any of that stuff because this is the good life.
The good life.
And that's where we end part one. So part one was basically giving us exposition, was giving us build up, and was giving us the story behind Jackson as the rise to fame. And now we're at Motown, and then we're about to get on to part two, where we talk about the success years, which the way I feel about part two is not the same way I feel about part one. So there are going to be some things going to be said. So you guys got to make sure you guys subscribe down below. Hit that like button because 1 is Michael, 2 is me, and 3 because we want to know the review of the Jackson American Dream. But make sure y'all hit the subscribe button to make sure to stay tuned for tomorrow for part 2.